Okay. Hurts says one thing, and now he's angry. He's angry. Let's leave it so everyone will be not so upset. He's angry quarterback now, and he has to justify what he said. And now, all of a sudden, there's a new narrative that Jalen has no leadership. This thing is unraveled. It's completely unraveled. And the Godfather said it would. Holy shit, man. From what I understand, I saw a couple posts that the Philly Godfather had helped somebody buy a new beach house in Hyannisport. I heard that he helped a guy buy a place down in Islamorada, down in the Keys. There was a big yacht I saw outside of San Diego, and it said this, courtesy of the Philly Godfather, and the bets that I got. Holy cow, is this guy killing it. Absolutely killing it. And he is our friend. And he is the legendary Philly Godfather, and he joins us now here on the National Football Show. Hey, man, what's up?
Happy holidays, Dan. I got a special guest with me today. I think you know him. His name is Mick Sirianni.
Look at him. I like the hat, too. It's perfect
Go
for him.
Birds!
Yes. Look at him. He's got the Birds hat on, too.
Yo, Dan.
Holy cow, man.
These coaches are amazing, ain't they? What?
My. Hey, what's your take of this whole mess?
It's a mess. Obviously, I've been talking about them all season, that big hole. We talked about it before the season started. And, you know, they were winning, and they were trying to cover up, you know, a wound that needed 100 stitches with a Band-Aid. And eventually, you know, the blood was, you know, they were going to bleed out. They're still a good team. Offensively, offensive coordinator, I don't know what he's doing. Jalen Hurts is banged up. I mean, people don't know this, but probably in the offseason, he's going to have some surgery. He's not 100%. And it's a mess. There's so many different factors of why this team is losing. And there's a lot of them. It's not like something you can correct going into the playoffs. And all of a sudden, nobody's scared of them. All of a sudden, I think the Buccaneers can beat them in the playoffs. I think the Vikings can beat them in the playoffs. The Lions can beat them in the playoffs. The Cowboys might light them up again. San Fran, they're not even going to be in that game if they meet up in the playoffs. Eagles are in trouble this year in the playoffs. You
know, it's real funny. I want to play a small game with you before we go on to the teams here and the games this weekend and on Christmas Day. Do you think that Nick Sirianni is the head football coach of the Eagles in 3 years?
No, I don't. I think the trajectory of what's going on here with no one taking accountability, everyone acting like it's somebody else's fault or it's nobody's fault or nothing's really going on, there's nothing wrong with this team. I think that's a major issue, and that's a predictive indicator of what's going to happen in the future.
Do you think that the Philadelphia Eagles will extend Jalen Hurts after his 3 years are up?
It's a tough call. He's underperformed this year, but they kind of they're trying to make.
And remember something: they did a nice job on the cap hits. They won't be that devastating if they move off the guy.
Yeah, they're trying to make him into a quarterback that he's not.
Right.
You know, he's more better. You know, improvisational on the football field, making things happen, using his legs more. He's not the guy to keep throwing 20, 25-yard passes down the field. They're low percentage passes, and he's not that guy. You know what I mean? So, you know, I just don't see it happening. Is he going to be around in 3 years? I mean, anything can happen, but more than likely, he's probably going to get even more banged up, you know, in this type of offense. So, you know.
All right, let's go to the games. Hey, by the way, last night, are you high on the Rams, on what they're doing now? One of the hottest teams in the NFL? I mean, look, I don't think I said this earlier. Godfather, I said, I don't think they could win against the 49ers and Cowboys in consecutive weeks, but I think they could beat one of those teams.
Well, they almost beat
in 1 week.
They almost beat the Ravens, and the Ravens have the tie for the best record in the NFL. McVay, I mean, he's one of the sharpest minds in football. It's him and Shanahan, young guys out there doing big things. And this team's playing some really good football as of late. And they're starting to get healthier. And down the stretch, I mean, if they meet up with the Birds in the playoffs, I think the Birds are in trouble.
Okay. Let's go to the games here. Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. It totally looks like this is a playoff game here. The playoffs start for both these teams on Saturday. This is Christmas Eve. This game's big, man. I mean, Jake Browning looks pretty good. And they could start, if I'm not mistaken, in this game, Mason Rudolph.
Yeah,
I think is going to be the starter here for Mike Tomlin. How do you see that game?
I mean, there's got to be some rust on him. I think the last time he played was like week 10 of 2021.
Yeah.
So, and I know Jamar Chase is out, and over the last 3 games, he's been around 40% of the passing production for Browning. So that's going to hurt a little bit. But they still have so many weapons on that offense. They got Mixon coming out the backfield that can catch the ball. I mean, I kind of like the Bengals here. Line opened up 2. It's reached up to 3. Anything under a field goal, I think the Bengals make it happen. I got my puppy. Let me grab my puppy real quick.
I love your puppy, man. Your puppy could stay. This is hey, I was telling Tone prior to the program.
Sorry,
let me tell you something, man. This is a puppy and an animal-friendly show. I may not be a Bozo Sirianni-friendly show, but it's definitely an animal show. So we're good with that there. No problem.
I apologize, Dad. I apologize. We got 4 dogs in us. I got 2 German Shepherds and 2 Shih Tzus. And I'm down here by myself there. Everyone's at the Christmas party, so we got to do
fantastic. I love it, man. You're taking care of your puppies. We're good. Buffalo at the most underachieving team next to the Saints, the Los Angeles Chargers. Is this a blowout here for the Bills?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how the Chargers stay in this game. The Bills are getting hot and heavy. They're looking for style points down the stretch. Like we talked about a few weeks ago, you could have got them at 40-1 to win the Super Bowl. You could have got them at 10-1 to win the AFC conference. And they might just be the best team in the AFC right now. So I think they blow that team out. Line's 13. I don't think it's enough.
Hey, I just want you to know that barking doesn't bug me. That barking gives us an ambiance for what we're doing here. So we're good. No, hey, man, don't get angry at the puppy here. No.
I'm back, man. I'm sorry.
Hey,
dude.
you know what? I get angry at people like turds like LJ in here. I don't get mad at doggies, okay?
Come here.
What's the dog's name?
Bella, little Bella. I got Bella and Gigi. I'm stuck with the puppies today. Come here, Bella.
That's good. So, yeah, hey, here we go here. This one here. Now we get to the Sunday games. Colts at Atlanta. The Colts are still in the playoff race here. This is a Fox game. It's on Sunday. Who do you like in this one?
I like the Colts, man. They're the healthier team here. Bell, come here, baby. Stains. The coach of the Colts has done an amazing job. The line's it's basically a coin flip. I like the Colts here. I think they win the game. You can probably grab 3 on them come game time. Bell, come here, baby. Come here. Sit right there. Yeah, you can probably grab 3 on them come game time. I think the Colts win the game outright. I don't even think they need the points.
I'm giving you a lot of kudos for balancing what you're doing here. Hey, by the way, I want to show you something. Nick Sirianni loses Shane Steichen, and he falls to shit. Zach Taylor loses Joe Burrow, and they're still a playoff team. Kevin Stefanski loses quarterbacks. They're still a playoff team. Shane Steichen leaves the Eagles, and that guy turns to shit. It's crazy.
He might be coach of the year this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely here. How about this one? Does Seattle keep it going here? It looks like Geno's going to start against Tennessee, which is folded their tent.
Yeah, I mean, the line's up to 3.5. It was 1.5. It passed through that key number 3. And in the sports betting market, the 3 is so key here. I think Seattle's the right side if you can get them. If you want to buy the hook and take them -3, Tennessee's all banged up. If you look at their injury report, it's a mile long this week. So I think Seattle keeps it going. I mean, they're fighting for their playoff lives. You saw what they did against the Birds in the second half of that game. And if you can get them at -3, I think they cover the spread.
There's a playoff game here, potentially down the road, too. Detroit at Minnesota. Who would have – hey, by the way, Godfather, think of this. Who would have ever thought this? That 3 teams from the NFC North would make the playoffs, and one of them wouldn't be Green Bay. I mean, right? Detroit, Minnesota, right? And Detroit, Minnesota, and who else?
You got well, the Bears ain't going to make it, but Detroit. I mean, we all knew Detroit was going to be strong at the beginning of the season. We took plus 50 on them to win the NFC North.
Two teams.
Yeah, I mean that team is they're just too top heavy for that division. This week they're playing Minnesota in Minnesota. They're laying 3. I would usually take the home dog here, but Minnesota's really banged up. I like Detroit here if you want to bet them in the first half on the money line. First half minus 2.5. Bet them full game minus 3. Minnesota's really, really banged up, and Detroit's, they want to look good down the stretch. I like Detroit here at minus 3. I think they win and cover the game.
Is Detroit better than Philly?
It looks that way right now. I mean, Philly's got their pass defense, like I said before. If it wasn't for that defensive line, their metrics would be the worst in the NFL. So it's hard to really pinpoint, like, are the Eagles the 4th best team in the NFC, the 5th best team? To be honest, I mean, yeah, right now I think Detroit's better.
The Washington Commanders versus the Jody McDonald Jets.
I didn't bet the game.
Hey. Is this a game you just go, no, not working?
You just don't know how to bet it. Guys are banged up on both teams.
And both teams have quit.
They both quit. They're both spent. The Jets are favored by 3. I'm not betting the game. I'm not looking to bet that game.
Packers, Carolina the same way?
Yeah. There's just too much uncertainty. You don't know, these guys are pros. They don't want to get hurt at the end of the season. You don't know who's giving it 100%, who's half-assing it out there. It's not, when you're looking to bet a game, you need something that you can quantify and say, okay, I see something. I got an edge. I want to bet it. And that's when you start firing. In games like these, it's just so difficult.
And I'm going to give you a little insight about hey, you might want to bet the Carolina game now. Because something that you told me last week. What's the point spread on that?
The Panthers, where are they at? They're getting 4.
Okay. This is why you go Green Bay, and I'll tell you why. You ready? There's 8 guys that are on that team. I don't know if it's this week, next week, that are coming up to their 75% playing percentage bonuses. And David Tepper may actively sit these guys as a healthy scratch because he doesn't want to pay a team or guys that are on a 1-win team.
Well, if that happens,
all I heard, I just, little guys on the, just something that David Tepper is thinking about sitting guys as. Now, I don't know if it's this week, though. All I know is that there's a chance they could sit some guys.
I'll give you a heads up. If that is about to happen, you're going to see the market move real quick. So that line's going to go. So if you want to bet it, you bet it now. And if it doesn't happen, you can always buy off the game and take the other side and just pay the juice. But if it does happen, that line at -4 could reach as high as -7. So you'll be sitting there with some great value.
Keep an eye on that thing moving around because Tepper is going to sit guys. Any team that's completely out of it and are trying to get draft positioning right now, because you know what you have at the end of the year, this is why they sit guys. Because do you remember the year that Howie Roseman sabotaged the Eagles at the end where he sat all them guys?
Right.
And he put Nate Sudfeld in? Do you remember that? Well, Howie sat guys. There were guys that lost incentives in that game, and they didn't want to pay anybody off a 4-11-1 team.
Yeah, I forget what year it was, but you can make a lot of money. If you get that information before the market does, start betting it everywhere because that line's going to move, like I said. That's huge. Information that the bookmakers don't have that's how you make money in this market. 2020
that year was. All right, let's go to this one. Cleveland at Houston. There's going to be no C.J. Stroud. Cleveland's still in the mix here. And the legendary Joe Flacco is still – we have a Joe Flacco sighting.
He's he's looked okay, right? Originally, this line opened up. The Texans were 2.5-point favorites. Now it's flip-flop. The Browns are 2.5-point favorites. I kind of like the over here. If you look at the Browns defense, they don't travel well. They've given up an average of 30 points per game on the road this season. If you look at the combined points scored on the road this year in Browns games and 6 Browns games, it's been like 54 points. So if you want to go over 40, I think you cash a ticket. I kind of like – if it gets to 3.5, I'll probably be looking to take the Texans here.
You want to hear something here too? Joe Flacco had a better career than Donovan McNabb.
Wow. Oh, he won a Super Bowl. that one year in the playoffs, he didn't throw one interception, and that Ravens team did it all. I mean,
take a look at his playoff record too.
Yeah, turnovers are so key, man. And if Flacco doesn't turn the ball over and he's a game manager and that defense gets a little healthier in the playoffs, if you look at their schedule, it's kind of weak. This team could end up 12-5 on the season. Going into the playoffs, it's a dangerous team with that type of defense.
Yeah, Joe Flacco, I never thought about it, had a better career than Donovan McNabb. Postseason-wise, numbers-wise too.
Well, who made more money? Was it
Joe.
McNabb or Flacco? Was it Flacco?
Joe Flacco made more money.
Well, then you got to give it to him.
Joe Flacco was the highest paid quarterback in the league at one time.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's why they had – don't you remember they gave Flacco that money? They had to get rid of Anquan Bolden.
Oh, yeah.
That's when they started dumping all them guys, and they went downhill until they got rid of them.
Yeah, I remember that. But, I mean, you got a backup quarterback in Keenum here. I like the over, but if you can get plus 3.5 on the Texans, I think that's the right side as well.
Jacksonville at Tampa. This is the battle of I-4, and the Bucks are leading their division, and the Jags are leading their division. However, 3 straight losses for Dougie P. You know, he's hanging on to dear life now to win that AFC South. Do they right the ship against the Bucks? I'll tell you what, Todd Bowles done a nice job coaching this Bucks team.
Yeah, the problem is their defense ain't that great. They're 25th in opponent yards per play, 29th in opponent yards per pass attempt. I'm not sure. I don't think Lawrence is going to play. But even if he doesn't play, I think CJ can move the ball on this team. This is a huge game for Jacksonville. The game was a pick. I think it's still basically, you just got to pick the winner. No, it's actually moved to Tampa Bay -2 as of right now. So I guess Lawrence ain't playing. But even if he doesn't play, I like Jacksonville. If it gets to 3, I'll take Jacksonville +3 all day.
Arizona, Chicago is just one of them games. I don't know,
I didn't bet it, but there's some real sharp money on Arizona. There's going to be some weather in that game. There's going to be some rain, 15, 20-mile-an-hour winds, wind gusts up to 30, 35 miles an hour. It's going to be an ugly game, but there's some sharp money on Arizona.
Okay, this is an interesting one. Dallas at Miami. What do you see in this one here? I mean, this will tell us a lot about both teams, I think.
Well, Miami's really banged up, and the Cowboys are missing, their offensive line is a little banged up as well. But Tua, when you pressure Tua, he's not the same quarterback. You see his numbers fall off. When he's pressured, he's like the 23rd worst quarterback in the league. And when you can't get pressure on him, he's like top 2 or top 3. If you look at the teams Miami lost to this year, I mean, they lost to the Chiefs, who ranked #1 in pressure rate. They lost to the Bills, who ranked 6th. The Titans, who ranked 9th. And they lost to the Eagles, and their defensive lineman at the time was playing some pretty good football. Cowboys ranked top 5 in sack percentage, pressure rate, top 5 in turnover margin, top 5 defending the pass. I think it's a bad matchup for Miami here. Game's basically a pick 'em. I like Dallas. I think they after getting embarrassed like that, like they did against Buffalo, I think they got something to prove that they can actually win on the road. I like Dallas here. I think they win the game.
I do too. Hey, is Dallas better than Philly?
Yeah, of course they're better than Philly. It's not even close.
Is Prescott a better quarterback than Jalen?
I don't know. He's a different type of quarterback. He's a better passing quarterback. He's got a better arm. He can make the throws that Jalen can't. But Jalen brings other things to the table that Dak doesn't. And Jalen isn't 100%. He's not 100%. So to make that comparison this year, it's not fair to Jalen Hurts. I love Jalen Hurts. He's my type of guy. If I want a real football player, you pick Jalen Hurts there at the quarterback position. On 4th down, I mean, who's better than Jalen Hurts on 4th down? 4th and inches, 4th and 1 with that tush push. It's just it's going to be ugly in the playoffs for this Eagles team.
I agree completely. Plus, he's got shitty coaching around him.
Well, we got Mick Sirianni.
I know, Mick Sirianni. Mickey Sirianni. And then you got the little guy, too, pulling the strings. Wait, what did we call him? Napoleon. We called him Napoleon Roseman.
You know what? Listen, he's done a great job, right? He brought us a Super Bowl. We never had a Super Bowl.
No. Doug, no, you're wrong. Doug brought us the Super Bowl.
Right, he won us the Super Bowl.
For the ride.
Yeah. but he helped out, and he built a good team last year. They exceeded all expectations the last 2 seasons. This year, the magic is starting to fall apart. They didn't want to invest in a defensive backfield, in corners. They let CJ go, no safeties, no linebackers, and that's going to bite you. They let TJ. We talked about it before the season started. He was like 60% of the tackle production last season. How do you let a guy like that go for peanuts? Spend a couple bucks, keep him around. It wasn't a lot of money.
Because the owner told him to. That's why. New England at Denver. Now, I think Bill's going to have him ready to play. Denver's kind of like holding on with a respirator here, aren't they, for the playoffs?
Yeah, line originally opened up 5.5. It's up to 7. So now
wow.
The key number is 7. So it's a lot of points in the NFL. I think Bill's going to have those guys ready. I just don't know if they can hang around. I mean, what's the incentive to go out there and play all 4 quarters, play your hearts out? Anything under a touchdown, I like Denver here.
Now the big game's on Monday. By the way, we haven't asked you yet for the Philly game. Mr. Forget About It playing.
Tommy Cutlets, baby.
We'll get that game first. Let's do the Raiders versus Kansas City. Boy, I'll tell you something here. Kansas City just not as look, but it's at Arrowhead. Does Kansas City start to get themselves ready to rock and roll for the playoffs here? Is this the game they do it? Or, again, are we going to see a little bit of the stumbling that we've seen all year long?
I mean, they're going to have to. They've won, 6 in a row against this Raiders team. So, it's a lot of points here. I mean, you're talking about double digits, 10 points. It opened up 11. It's down to 10. The total's small. Total's at 41. They're expecting a lot of rain. They're expecting a lot of wind. So in bad weather games, the dog's always live. I mean, I tell people all the time, if you got a game with some real shitty weather, take the underdog every time because anything can happen. Turnovers. It's going to be hard to throw the ball. Mahomes has been great, but his receivers on sunny days are dropping passes. Now on a rainy, windy day, what are they going to do? They're going to look even worse. I like the Raiders here, plus 10.
Now we get to John Gotti DeVito versus Jalen Hurts. It's at Lincoln Financial. The Gigantes here going into this football game too. The Giants are 24th in defense. They're 28th versus the run. They're 19th versus the pass. And yet, why do I feel this game? And by the way, it's 13.5. As of this morning, I don't know if that number's moved, but how do you see this thing?
I think, it originally opened up 11. Now it's 13.5. This game, you could see this game go to 17 by kickoff.
17?
Yeah, you could.
That would be one of the highest spreads all time.
The Eagles have to come out here and have to kick some, what? I mean, they got to shut down all the talk in Philly from the media. They got to shut down the national talk. This is the team to do it against. I mean, they're one of the worst defenses in the NFL. And if the Eagles are as good as they used to think they are, they're going to have to come out here and cover the spread. I kind of like the Eagles in the first half here. I think they come out fast. You can lay 7 in the first half. That's probably the right bet here. But full game, the back door is always wide open when you get to like 13.5, 14, especially in a division game. But I think the Eagles, more than likely, they're probably going to come out here and cover the spread.
Jalen Hurts over under 225 passing yards.
He's a little banged up. I would go over. That Giants defense is horrible, man. They're horrible.
Over under 120 yards rushing.
I would say, the Eagles team?
Yeah.
I would go over.
Oh, so you think this is a blowout?
I think they got something to prove. And when a team like this, they lost 3 in a row, the Giants are the perfect medicine for them to get back on track a little bit. More than likely, they're probably going to kill this team.
Do you think both receivers go over 100 yards, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown?
Well, is Smith playing? I know he's banged up, right?
Is that some – I hadn't heard that. He's not playing?
Oh, no, he might be playing, but I know he didn't practice a couple of days this week. I know he's a little banged up. I would go under in Devontae Smith receiving yards.
You're not concerned that Landon Dickerson's not playing at all, especially for the run game?
Giants are just so bad. I mean,
terrible.
They're just so bad. I'm not worried about that.
The game of the night and maybe the weekend, The number one team in the – I don't know. I can't – if I remember this, going into week 16. Both teams are the number one seeds and both conferences, and they're both 11-3. They're 22-6 going into this matchup, and it's in Santa Clara, and the 49ers have looked like world beaters right now. I don't know what the spread is, but what are we looking at here with this thing?
It opened up San Fran -6. It's down to 5.
-6.
Yeah, depending on where you shop. I mean, there's 3 guys playing in this game that could be the MVP of the National Football League. So this is probably going to be the best game to watch all week. Both teams have – it's tough to handicap. Both teams are 11-3. Both teams have given up the least amount of points in the NFL. Both teams rank top 10 in turnover margin. And they're both the hottest teams in the NFL. I think San Fran won 6 in a row. I think the Ravens won 4 in a row. But I think it's a lot of points, 5.5 here against Lamar Jackson. I mean, as an underdog during regular season, I think Lamar is like 11-2 against the spread. So anytime he's an underdog, he gets you the money in the regular season. And he's so elusive, he's going to cause some problems on that San Fran defensive line. I mean, he deflates a lot of defensive line. You saw what he did against the Jags. He would run around and have 7-8 seconds to throw the ball. And the Jags ain't chopped liver, with Dougie P. If you look at the teams the Ravens lost this season, they lost to the Steelers, the Browns, the Colts, and all 3 teams ranked in the top 10 in sack percentage. And as great as the San Fran defense is, they rank 14th in the NFL in sack percentage. So if they can't get to him, they're going to have some issues. I think it's too many points. I kind of like Lamar here plus 5.5. Purdy's looked good all season, but when he played 3 teams that ranked in the top 10 in opponent yards per pass attempt and opponent yards per play, they lost 2 of the 3 games. Now, I know they were a little banged up in those games. They lost to Minnesota. They lost to the Browns, and they beat the Cowboys. But he hasn't looked great against some pretty good defenses. Against the weaker defenses, Purdy's looked unreal. So Baltimore ranks number 1 in almost every defensive metric. Their defense is for real. I like Baltimore plus 5.5. I think they can win the game outright.
How about the MVP race right now? Who do you have the top 3?
Well, the top 3 are Purdy, number 1, Lamar's number 2, and Dak dropped down to number 3. But how do you give it to Purdy when you got McCaffrey on that team?
Do you think those 2 can cancel each other out and Dak slips in there and wins the MVP if he wins out?
I mean, Lamar's second right now.
Okay.
And if Baltimore goes up there, and San Fran's really banged up in this game. They got a lot of guys there. I talked to Pro Football Doc. He told me San Francisco's pretty banged up here. So you can actually take, if you don't like the Baltimore Ravens on the money line, you can always take plus 500 on Lamar Jackson to win the MVP, which might be a better bet because if he goes up there and they beat San Fran, Lamar Jackson will be the odds-on favorite to win the MVP this season.
2 bowl games this weekend. I don't know if you're working on these. I won't do the Gasparilla Bowl with Tech and UCF today, Georgia Tech. Saturday games. Troy and Duke, it's the Birmingham Bowl. It's not a bad bowl game here. Do you look at games like that or do you not? Or is that a game that you pass on?
We usually bet a lot of these bowl games, but there's so many things that have been going on with these guys not playing. Yep. You don't know who's playing. It's just tough. I've been waiting closer to game time before I make a wager here. This line originally opened up. Troy was 5.5. It's up to 7 now. There's got to be something going on that, the public doesn't know about for that line to be moving that way. 80% of all tickets right now are on Troy. I talked to guys offshore and in Vegas. So it seems like.
Can I tell you why? More guys at Duke are going to opt out than the guys on Troy, and that's why the money's going over there on their side, that they're going to have more veteran guys. So that's why the number is slipping over to their side because, again, they don't it's like the NCAA tournament. Early on in the NCAA tournament, most of those smaller schools have 4-year veterans and 4-year seniors that are on the team. And most of those other schools have guys that are one and dones. And so that's why you get upsets, right? Is because you have veteran. And I think that's why Troy's number has gone up.
Yeah, but I mean, even the backups for Duke, they might be better than Troy, but at 7, that's right. A lot of points. That's a lot of points, man.
How about Utah Northwestern in the Vegas Bowl?
There's some sharp money on Northwestern. I didn't bet it, but I know there's some real sharp money on them. The game opened up 8.5. Now it's down to 6, 5.5 at some shops. It's probably going to keep dropping. There's some serious sharp money on Northwestern, not just plus the points. but also to win outright.
I got to give you a lot of love, man. You were distracted. You're running a kennel. You're making money. You're buying condos for people up in Hyannis Point.
Hanging out with Mick Sirianni.
Hanging out with Mick Sirianni, man. I mean, you got it all going on. You're a multitasker, my friend.
I apologize for the puppies, man. Everyone's at Christmas parties, but I didn't go. I said, I'm doing the Dan Sileo show today. Forget about the Christmas parties. I'll come in late. I can't miss Dan's show.
Thank you so much, man. I can't wait to talk to you next week. By the way, Merry Christmas to you, my friend. Tell the good folks how they can find you.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Philly Godfather, or you can stop by the PhillyGodfather.com and go Birds.
Gotcha. Yeah. Thank you, Philly Godfather. I appreciate it. That is our friend. Do me a favor. Please hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Eat chicken wings, buy Hooters things. Christmas is near. Shop, have a beer. Christmas shopping shouldn't be hard. Give your friends a Hooters gift card.
This year, stuff their stockings and yours too with a one-size-fits-all gift card. Buy a $25 Hooters gift card and receive a $5 Santa's bonus card. Make it Hooters for the holidays.
Eat chicken wings, buy Hooters things. Christmas is near. Gift cards are here. Good at Hooters everywhere now. Hooters gifts are always favored.